Hello, everybody. I would love to welcome you to the fifth opening at Eat Art Space here in my lovely dining room gallery. In a few minutes, Taylor Norris will be joining us on Instagram Live, and I am very excited to talk with them about their really involved collage process. I will be giving a gallery tour in a few minutes, but in the meantime, I am going to there we go. I'm going to enter in. We just hit the join button, and very shortly we will be chit-chatting with the maker. So welcome. It's so great to
Hi.
see you virtually.
It is, yeah.
So I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience, talk a little bit about your background and how you got started with this body of work as I walk around the gallery. If there's any one particular piece that you would like me to zero in on that you're talking about, just let me know.
Great, yeah. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Taylor. I'm non-binary. I use they, them pronouns, FYI. Um, this particular work has been a long time in the making. I would say 2017, roughly, might be when I actually first started to work on these pieces. Or at least one of them. It's the process is incredibly slow, but it was sort of brought into being in a time when I was working at Michael's. I was a closing manager and stressed all the time from working retail, and didn't really have a whole lot of time to devote to art making. So very slowly over the course of a few years. I was able to get this work finished. And I think that you'll notice a lot of escapist type of imagery, right? Like fantasy inspired landscape, some like mostly landscapes. And I feel like a lot of it tends to go that direction just because, like I was saying, I was not in the best place, headspace in life, I guess, like very dealing with depression and anxiety and stuff. And I sort of naturally might have gravitated towards a lot of fantastical imagery for that reason.
In previous work and in past bodies of work, tell me a little bit about the mediums that you like, your training and the things you brought beforehand into this body of work to see like what were the any art training or any art background that may have influenced this process for you?
Yeah, I do have an academic background. I have a BFA from ETSU, although I honestly would consider myself more of the like a self-taught artist, just that mentality, right? Where the most important thing for me is that the process is therapeutic for me, that it's very personal. And like I've been painting or making since I was very young because my dad's an artist. And he, before I could really do anything else, I remember having a paintbrush in my hand, right? So it's incredibly personal to me. But at ETSU, I did have the opportunity to, just because of the different classes that were offered, like mixed media classes, I was able to explore working with a lot of different media that I never would have considered. And I really took to collage in a way that I'd never really took to traditional painting, just because it felt playful and it felt fun. And it felt right, I guess, more in a way that was more right than like painting an image with paint or stuff like that. Just because before I started working with paper, I actually did a lot of oil paintings, a lot of watercolor paintings, like very like realistic or semi-realistic types. I was doing very inspired by like the surrealist painters like the female surrealists especially doing like paintings of empty rooms, liminal spaces, and stuff like that. So I do think it's really odd that now I'm more of a maximalist. You know, I'm not painting empty rooms anymore. Like I'm painting.
Everything is
I still
full.
consider,
Everything is
yeah,
full of
yeah. I
action.
still consider my process painting, but I'm making um, like maximalist aesthetic type like images. Like there's so much going on. Um, but yeah, I
Can you
sort
talk
of
a little bit about those connections and how you moved into collage? And I mean, in your artist statement, you talk a little bit about how the therapeutic process and the personal nature of it connects you to folk art. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I think it's more just like my I guess what my own personal definition of what folk art is, just more so like the fact that I do it for myself more than anyone else. I think about what it means to me personally more so than what I would think about concept or even marketing the work, if that makes sense. Um, a lot of I do consider everything to be very personal, but it's also the nature of collage is responding to material as I work. So I don't always come up with images ahead of time. Um, and I kind of feel that like with my struggle with panic disorder and possible OCD, definitely depression and stuff like that, just the process of building, like obsessively building layers of material it just puts me in such like a calm state. Like I finally feel like I can calm my brain down
Can you talk a
that,
little bit about what that process looks like maybe specifically with this piece? Because I've actually been very curious about this globe shape in the background and how it obviously has, yeah, I mean, because you talk about collage, but there's obviously more going on here than just collage. So that's question number one. And question number two would be, do you have, and again, this is a question I have for most collage artists. Do you have a particular set of materials that you gravitate towards? Because collage paper can be newspaper. It can be, I don't know. Paper takes all forms, and there's different images printed on different kinds of paper. So how do you go about choosing that in the first place? So there's two-part question about the
well,
process.
to your first question about like there's different types because it's not just collage, right? There's
Yeah.
drawing and painting in there as well. I guess
Yeah,
I
especially
think of
these elements
yeah,
here.
yeah. I think I sort of think of it to me, collage is not just working with like collage paper. The fact like just working with mixed media together in a unified way is inherently a collage way of working,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes any sense. Like including because the like I include cutout drawings of that I've made or painting directly onto the collage. To me, that is still a collage. Like it's still like existing as a collage, if that makes any sense, because it's disparate elements that are made to work together. So
Yes.
even when I include paint, like painting directly on top of the paper, that is still a collage technique in my head. Um, and to your second question about like favorite types of material, I always tend to gravitate towards um, metallic paper and or old, like specifically there in that one, the uh, the trees there.
This one over
Those
here.
yeah, it's like a mix of an actual illustration of a tree that I cut out, and then around it is ripped versions of that illustration. I
Mm-hmm.
love the sort of like the vintage aesthetic of like old paper that's been yellowed by age, and sometimes I will exacerbate that with coffee stain. Pretty much every single piece here has been coffee stained. Um, I still don't know why I do. I just love the aesthetic of like browned paper, just because of the weight, um, the weight of age or the weight of history that kind of brings to mind. So I love working with just any type of found material that I think would be old.
Do you connect that age with any form of calming effect out of curiosity? I see some metallic elements in here reflecting off of the light. I'm going to highlight some of
Yeah.
those.
I would say like we, like people scrapbook a lot, right? Scrapbooking is very popular, and people do it for themselves, and it's working with old family photographs or old documents, like stickers and fun things that you buy at craft stores. To me, like I feel the same way making this work as if I were scrapbooking because of the nostalgia factor, the working with so many different things at once. Except for my end goal is making a unified piece of art.
I'm going to try to get in here and like see if you can see how three-dimensional these are. I'm pretending like, I have my nose right up against this so that folks can see how many pieces there are in each of these. I almost didn't notice that there were constellations in there. Goodness gracious me. There's so much going on in here.
I think that one's actually got three-dimensional stickers on it. Those
Yeah.
little gems on the bottom.
So these, something that I find interesting is that you have this consistent size that you seem to enjoy, or at least that you worked predictably on, this either a long landscape format or a vertical, but in similar proportions. And, it's difficult to maintain that over several years. Was that a space limitation or just an intentional choice or a time limitation or any other thoughts on that?
Well, I do try to work smaller because I am working with literally very tiny pieces of ripped up paper.
Mm-hmm.
I think with these, they're most of them except for the one, they're all 12 by 18, I believe.
Yes.
And I think that's just because I had readily available, it's watercolor paper.
Mm-hmm.
I had a pack of like readily available watercolor paper that I just started working on. And then obviously once I had gotten them completed, they were mounted onto wooden panels. But I think going off of just the concepts behind collage making is working with what you have and trying to make different things work together. And I think that idea informs my whole process of just kind of using what I have and making it work, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that
So
absolutely does. It's like, and you also mentioned to me earlier about how repurposing was important to you.
Yeah, I don't think that that's something I ever really, that's just something that kind of naturally happened as someone who always collected, old books and magazines, and I had them, you can find them like cheap at thrift stores and stuff, but like just kind of naturally happening when you don't have money to buy a lot of expensive food or anything. And I just noticed that it kind of hit me that this was a way that I could really make work without spending hundreds of dollars on oil paint. And obviously I still use paint, right? Like that, like the piece behind you with the
This one over my shoulder.
the metallic part of the like the dripping rainbow is just it's actually a more expensive paint. It's like a metallic pearl, which I always loved using anything metallic just for the celebratory nature of it. But and I still do use paint, but it's I don't have to buy as much of it, and particularly when I worked at a craft store, like I was able to get it on a discount anyway.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of your titles? Because you were mentioning earlier about surrealist imagery, and some of these titles have, I would call descriptive. For instance, the one that we were just talking about is called Boiling Point, and that definitely feels sort of indicative of what's being depicted. But then there's one that there are several of them that I'm interested to hear more about your thoughts behind them. For instance, Fester over here,
Mm.
and then its other partner over here on this matching wall, Moonshine, which I'm guessing that's a moon, but you also, I mean, you also mentioned that you're inspired by the landscape around you. So I heard, I heard Moonshine Moon and Moonshine Alcohol, and I'm not sure if that wasn't okay. That's intentional. All right, wasn't sure if I was gonna. I was reading into that. So, are there any other type, or do you want to go around and maybe talk about which one you feel like you have a really deep connection to, and or elaborate on some of the ones in your thought process behind them?
Yeah, going back to Fester, the one over on the left, I feel like it's the thing where, you know, every artist has it where they're always super familiar, like you stare at the piece so much because you're working on it that you feel like you almost become it's harder to look at it with new eyes, right? Um, but this, I don't know, I feel like some people, sometimes the imagery is not always, it doesn't really hit people what it is. But this is obviously like a rose, but it's got this festering bump on it, almost like a mold
I'm trying to
or a
get
pimple.
like in
Yeah, like
the.
something literally growing, like a growth on this like rose, right? And I think that in terms of how I am literally festering in my head, right, over like anxiety or like obsessive thoughts, going back to a struggle with mental illness before, and then the silhouette there on the top. Again, this is not always readily seen, but because I'm so used to seeing this image and I know what it is, that's a silhouette of a couple.
Yes.
It's like on the right is like a longer haired female coded individual, and on the left is like a shorter haired male coded individual. So it's a silhouette of a couple. And I think there could be some like relationship slash romantic notions tied into that. Um,
I think it's interesting that you talk about it as a festering, maybe infestation. And when I look at this image, I think you can also read it because the center of a flower can also be the part where the seed is transforming. So I kind of like having both readings available, that it could be positive growth or negative depending on maybe how the viewer feels or how strongly one feels that it resembles a seed or a boil. So that just strikes me as personally being interesting. I'm not sure if the audience, I'd like to open things up to whoever's watching if they have any particular questions for Taylor or about the process specifically or about their background or anything else. I mean, folks can type in the Instagram comments, and Taylor, I'm sure, is happy to answer any questions. Um, but are there any other titles? I mean, let's see, there's Viral over here, which I'm not sure if you have any commentary on that to offer.
that's an interesting thing, and it's actually hard to talk about, I guess, in the midst of a pandemic. But I think
Let's
when
do
I
it.
was working on it, when I was working on it, like obviously that globe shape is a meant to sort of like be like a planet or something, right? Or like an inhabited like world. And then you have what looks like an infestation type thing going on there.
The reaching into,
Uh,
you mean? Or do I need to back up
yeah,
a
yeah,
little bit?
like a growth, something like that's not necessarily attacking, but approaching this
Mm.
like rainbow globe world thing. Um, and I think that like little like that blue like tower like shape with the explosion was meant to be like a I don't know, kind of going off like a spaceship or something, but it's like exploding in this like metallic, uh, just explosion, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So Nancy is asking, how long do you spend creating each piece? I'm sure it's, I mean, this body of work, I think this is a series of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pieces um, that you've been working on since 2017, correct?
yes, it might even be earlier than that. I think the very first of this series, the very first one that I started working on was Bubble, which is the one
I'll
with
spin
the
around to that.
very overwhelming like rainbow imagery. And if you can look at that and see, I feel like I can tell that it's the first one because it's more abstract and not really necessarily going for like a hard like cut and dry image that's going on.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like it's hard to say because um, the process is slow for these because I've been working inconsistently over the past few years. Like I would go like a month or so without working. Sometimes I would spend hours and hours and hours in the studio like I used to. But I think adding it all together, like each individual piece, I would say a couple months, maybe even a couple weeks for each one. Um,
In terms of
something
maybe
because
total time as you build all this up.
yeah, it's really like I said, it's hard to say because all of this work has been slowly built up over the past few years. But and obviously the process is incredibly slow because I'm um, ripping paper and gluing it down. Um,
So you have to wait
and
for
that
things to dry and then move on to the
yeah,
next layer and maybe paint on it and then think on it. I can totally see how this would take a long time. I'm going to keep going
yeah.
back to the shiny things. But I realized, I got to flip this. I realized that we are getting close to having to hop onto Facebook. This has just been so engrossing. Um, I need to ask you, before we conclude, what your favorite place to eat is, and then I'll share our local food feature before I hop off.
Yeah, you have Mid City,
I
right?
do have
So,
Mid
yeah,
City. I'll flip
yeah.
it around, and I got one of their vegan options here. I got myself a falafel sandwich, and then
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of their fried pickles. I don't know if you like those. Um,
Yeah, I was gonna mention just because when I was a student at ETSU and I would have like a lot of long nights in the studio, I would order from them a lot.
yeah.
Particularly, I remember like 2 or 3 a.m. in the painting studio ordering fried pickles.
Oh my gosh, and these ones are like the best ones I've ever had.
Yeah,
So
so that it's a very appropriate,
yeah, they are
very appropriate.
open. They're saying that they've been overwhelmed by a lot of takeout recently. So the they're encouraging people to order online. Their online ordering is available at the hours that the actual restaurant is open. So I think they're open until like 4 a.m. tonight or something like that. But they're open late. They open late at 11 a.m. for
Mhm.
lunch and everything, and then they're open way late. So if you guys are hungry, it's a good place to get food when everything else is closed. And it's
Yeah,
also really great food too. But what's your favorite beverage, or do you have a dessert that you like to order from there?
I'm a huge coffee drinker. I mean, I don't really drink much like soda, and I try to stay away from alcohol these days, but coffee is my main go-to. Um, Obviously, I'd go to the Willow Tree a lot before they closed.
Hmm.
There's a really great place called the Colombian Coffee Exchange
Oh
uh,
yeah.
in Johnson City. That's amazing coffee. Um, but I also like in a pinch, I'll run through McDonald's drive-through to get one as
Yeah.
well. So a big coffee person. Descados is amazing coffee as well. They're still open for they have like a window, like a walk-up
Yes.
window.
I was actually just
Um,
there yesterday grabbing some more bags of coffee too. So,
yeah.
um, well, lastly, before we head over to Facebook, are there any people that you want to give a special shout out to before we conclude, and people who you'd like to thank for this or for art or for anything, really.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. I love the concept of sort of like the grassroots home run, personal run type of gallery space where you're literally just taking initiative to do it yourself. I think that's amazing.
Well, you know,
Um,
we gotta make things for ourselves these days. So
yeah, I mean, even I feel like, a lot of people, a lot of these types of things are happening because of COVID, but like I feel like the whole taking an initiative to do it yourself thing is really important. I love the community that we've been slowly building in Johnson City of artists, of people I've met through ETSU and people that I met, doing pop-up shows and stuff. Um, Particularly, I do want to mention Liz Layton as a huge influence on me because I saw her work in undergrad, and she's the reason why I use glitter and metallic paper and pink and just so many non-traditional femme coded or just like craft supplies, I guess, in a serious way, in a high art way.
yeah,
And Liz and everyone from Cat Party, that was a sort of like a art group that was
was that at
formed.
ETSU?
Well, it was people that went to ETSU, like Jamie Santos Prowse and
Mm-hmm.
Liz Layton, Jennifer Culp, Mira Gerard, who's the chair of the art department, and it started as a meeting at Jamie's house just to make, just to meet and have fun, drink, and make art together. And then we made a zine, and we had a show together at Tusculum, and that was a really great like post college experience for me. Just working with so many like-minded people that
Yes.
we all kind of made work in a similar way, personal work or work about using non-traditional materials. So definitely people from Cat Party, which, a lot of people have moved, like Jamie lives in Colorado now, but we're still in contact and still
Oh,
glad
that's
for the
wonderful.
experience.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Well, are you ready to hop onto Facebook and talk some more to different people?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I want to thank everybody who came to the Instagram artist talk. It's so special to be able to talk to the artists directly and to actually like see faces. So I'm going to go give a short gallery tour, and Taylor can do some Q&A, and I will be your little monkey hands for spinning the camera around as needed. So you just let me know and where you need me to point the camera, and I'll do the dirty work for you. So I will see if folks want to follow us to Facebook, you can. But most importantly, all of these are available for purchase as prints, or you can also buy the originals. The link is in the profile at Instagram at eatart.space. And there is a 1 week purchase window. So grab one if you can, because these are absolutely one of a kind. All right, Taylor, I will see you on Facebook
See you then.
and in
Bye.
real life. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.